And welcome back to episode 110 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
Welcome. We are back again for the Weekly Tech Rant. It seems like it comes around every week.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Well, what a week it has been. I think the biggest story that we can kind of follow on from last week, and we won't touch it this week as it's still developing, but I think it's the fallout from Musk and Twitter, isn't it? Today, news breaking of mass layoffs from Twitter, which quite frankly it's quite bad, isn't it? It's quite
the
bad.
way it's been handled is shocking.
Yeah, and again, we're not going to report on it this week because, as I said, it's still ongoing, and then the dust hasn't settled. But the high level view is that Musk is, I think, talking about a reduction of half the workforce, isn't it? And people have already been apparently let go of their jobs. There's waking up to discover that you've been basically made redundant because you can't get into your corporate tools. There's no access to email, and I think people were getting emails to their personal accounts, weren't they?
Yeah, basically, if you got an email to your personal account, you no longer work for the company. If you got it to your corporate account, congratulations, you still got a job.
Man, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But we will follow up on this next week as this progresses. But for this week, we have got a bit of a mixed show this week. We're going to talk cyber breaches. We're going to talk lawsuits. We're going to talk USB-C. And we'll talk about Meta. We got Meta this week. Got a couple of Meta stories, haven't we, from the Metaverse and the Meta Quest, and a couple of follow-ons. A follow-on, I should say, from the RTX 4080 story that we talked about last week. Which, Nvidia backtrack, and the rumor mill does make its welcome return as well to talk about a couple of iPhone 15. I know it only seems like yesterday that we got the iPhone 14, but yes, the 15 is already in the rumor mill. So let's kick off this week's big story then, which is the investigation report from the Twilio hack, which happened back in August. So Twilio then now have published their findings, haven't they, from this breach? And it's not good. It's not good.
No, obviously. So back in August, they were hacked by the Octopus group, wasn't it?
Brilliant.
And they apparently made off with 1,900 Signal users affected, but later 10,000 credentials from over 130 organizations. Well, it's got a bit worse, hasn't it? So
it has.
During that investigation, the August hack, they actually uncovered an earlier breach from June, carried out by the same group. Though they didn't really advertise this, though, did they? It was very much buried, at the bottom of a lengthy incident report on the August hack. But according to Twilio, this brief security incident happened June the 29th, involved the social engineering of one of their employees for a voice phishing by impersonating IT department. They obviously managed to get hold of this employee's corporate credentials, enabling the attacker to access that customer contact information. They've said it's for a limited number of customers, although they haven't said how many and what they've got away with.
No, so that was the 29th of June saying they informed their customers, didn't they, by the 2nd of July, who were anybody that was impacted by that. But I mean, phishing, that's pretty old school, isn't it? Doing the old ringing up the social. That's classic social engineering, to do the phone calls. And it takes, to put it bluntly, it takes some balls on the attacker's part to carry that off.
Skill,
really. Yeah.
But I'm wondering if they found out on the 29th and they informed their customers 2 days later, why did they not mention this to the press until the big August one?
Maybe they felt that there wasn't a breach there because, in the sense of, but they're saying that the threat actor, within 12 hours they'd removed and identified all their access areas. But the other thing was interesting was the fake accounts, wasn't it? Or fake pages that were created to draw the Okta logins, wasn't it? So quite a lot of different plays on that. Things like, was it Twilio-sso.com, Twilio.net, what was the other one? SendGrid-Okta.org, Twilio-Okta.net. Some real. You and I looking at them now are like, I can tell that, but they're saying that people did enter credentials onto those pages for classic, classic phishing. But this comes down to education, isn't it? Check and check and check again, and is it complacency or is it just the fact that the world we live in now, where everything, SSO has become so ubiquitous that you trust that the SSO link that you get is the right one?
Well, where's the two-factor authentication here? So surely if you'd popped in the link, you wouldn't get the 2FA prompt if it's the wrong site. Yeah, you've just given your username and your password, but they still can't get without the 2FA.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I mean, they were harvesting, weren't they, one-time passwords and
Yep.
OTPs through those fake sites. I mean, you remember you and I worked for a mobile
Oh,
security
yeah, they
company.
were proxying, bridging them, weren't they?
Yeah, you and I worked for a mobile security company. Do you remember that did a very similar
Yep.
demo with that, where you could, enter your OTPs, one-time passcodes, into those sites, and again, you then at the back end you'd have access to both of those for that limited time. You've got to move quickly, of course, as the
Of course,
attacker,
yeah.
but it is there. So what have they said now then? I mean, they've how many
Well,
what's the
yeah.
final figures on the
They
attack?
they wouldn't say how many customers were affected with that June attack, but they have bumped the overall number of customers or organizations affected from that 136 we heard of back in August up to 209 different organizations now. So it's gone up considerably.
So but they're kind of writing it down, aren't they? Because they're saying that that's a customer base of 270,000. And there was also, was it 93 Authy end users? So Authy is the app that allows you to create one-time
Yep,
passcodes, isn't it? Like Google
it is.
Authenticator.
Yeah, and it's owned by
Um,
Twilio as well. So
it is. It is. Yeah, I forgot about that because I use that for my OTPs. And they're saying that 93 end users were affected out of that, out of an approximate 75 million. I said, so I guess if you look at it from a numbers perspective, it's relatively low. But obviously, the information on who those 209 affected customers
yeah,
were out of their main customer base
yeah.
um,
Those
is
209 could be Microsoft, Okta, as we've
that.
already
Well,
seen, Signal.
yeah,
They could. There's a very
that's
different
the thing.
importance from one company to another,
That's what I'm saying.
and the wider impact. Yeah,
You could have somebody in that is actually to turn a phrase, a gorilla that that they could have attacked. So it might not be like a 10-person shop. It could be 100,000 person company that was then
could
potentially
be the
attacked as well.
MOD, could be the Pentagon, it could be someone like that.
Exactly. And that's the worry, isn't it? So, numbers don't really tell you the true story, and it's easy to write it off, isn't it? By saying,
Yeah,
it's fine, it's not a problem at
that
all.
that Orphe one. Did you say it was 90 something people? That's a targeting attack.
93. Yes,
There's
93.
a very specific 93 people.
Yeah. Because that is far too low. When you've got a potential attack surface of 75 million, 93 is a ridiculously low number.
Yeah, they knew what they were going for. They were in and out, and in that 12 hours, and they got exactly what they wanted.
Which makes you wonder whether those 93 were used to target the 209.
Quite possibly, yeah.
But it's interesting, though, that they're in that statement, the report they've put out on their blog, they say that there's no evidence, and I quote from this, saying there's no evidence that the malicious attackers access Twilio customers' console account credentials or authentication tokens or API keys. Then what were they doing? What were they doing? That's the question.
One of those ones, though. There's no evidence if you don't look. How hard did they look?
Again, we're just speculating.
I didn't actually see this report. Was this an internal report? Was this done by a third party? I didn't actually catch that.
I don't know. I have to double check. I think this is a published report by themselves, isn't it? I think it's their security incident response team that's published this. I may be wrong, but I'm sure from when I read the notes earlier, I didn't see anything to say that
No.
they talk about. They have said that there was a statement in it that says industry findings around widespread. So they said that independent cybersecurity researchers examining worldwide cyber incidents have found that a wide-scale set of attacks. Yeah. So basically, they were just using that to, I guess, justify what's happened here, because they've got Octopus, and the other one who I hadn't heard of was Scatter Swine.
Okay, that's a new one on me.
Yeah, but again, it's it says here, it's smishing. So identifying mobile phone numbers of employees, sending smishing attacks or texts, the voice phishing to identify phone numbers, again for that social engineering, and then getting them to click on those fake Okta, Azure, Duo, and other login pages, and then harvesting the credentials. So this is a very targeted attack. And then they go on to say that the attack on Twilio employed similar tactics, techniques, and procedures to the above. So what have they done then to kind of, I guess, following on from this, they've said that there's a set of procedures that they're now implementing, isn't it, or and
Yep.
additional steps.
I
So
didn't actually write that one down. So
okay,
did
I've
you?
got it here. Yeah, I've got it here.
You've got it there.
So
I did not write it down.
well, I thought it was just interesting, given that a lot of this you'd have thought they'd have done. That's why.
Right.
So they said they're going to increase stronger two-factor authentic precautions, and they're going to issue FIDO tokens to all of their employees. So FIDO tokens, if you're not sure what they
Yep.
are, if you've heard of YubiKey or similar hardware keys, either USB or NFC, that you plug into your device or you issue up to a device, they're going to issue those to all of their employees. They're going to have additional layers of controls within their VPNs.
Yep.
They're going to remove and limit certain functionality within specific administration
Mm.
tooling. So that implies that everybody had a free-for-all access on certain things, I'd say.
Yep.
They're going to refresh the frequency of the tokens for Okta applications. So if you use SSO today, it's the time between once you've SSO'd in to next time that site forces you to log in again. And then the final one, which I feel this is horse bolted. Conducting supplemental mandatory security training for all employees regarding attacks based on social engineering techniques. That should have been there already, because
That
the
should be a
biggest,
yearly occurrence.
well, even then, but it should be yearly, but it also should be, I think, more than yearly. I think you should have the standardized training once every 6 months. Personally
Yeah.
speaking, it's boring, I know, but it just reminds you the things to look out for. And then a lot of organizations do. I know mine does. I suspect yours does as well.
Yeah.
The classic email that pops up and you're like,
Yeah,
I
the
need to hit,
simulated ones. Yeah, where if
yeah,
you click the link, you
send
then
to
have to go and do
send
the
to
training
phishing,
again.
yeah, send to phishing. So those kind of stuff. I think it's good to kind
That's
of
an
keep.
interesting one. Those reports, because I like to actually pull the email apart. I know it's a phishing one.
I know, but
I
it's when
report it
you
as
do.
email, but then I then put it in a sandbox and just see what I get at the very end. I don't obviously put the details in, but then you get a
No.
call from IT, and you're like, "Well, no, actually, it was in a sandbox. I didn't put any valid details in. I was checking it out, but I did report it. So it's always an interesting conversation."
Yeah, if you send it back, you get that classic email going, "Thank you very much for sending this to the phishing team or whatever.
Yeah.
Well done for being a good person and spotting
And then
it."
you get those company-wide emails that come out that look like phishing but aren't actually.
Oh god, yeah, they're
And
brilliant.
I just report those anyway. They're like, it's a real one. It's like, it's got every hallmark of a phishing campaign.
I am. I had that as well. And the other day, I was like, that can't be real. And then sent it to the team. They got
Click
an email
this
back.
link to claim your free year subscription
Whatever,
to Netflix
yeah.
or whatever. Fill your details, and you're like, this is a phishing attempt. And they're like, no, it's real. Really? You could have worded that better.
I know. You get the email back, then you go, no, trust me, it's good. You're like, oh, okay.
Really?
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of those happening as well. But I think from the viewpoint of the training here, I think really that should have been going on already. But fair play to Twilio again. It's a reasonable report.
Yep.
It does state the whole attack chain. It gives examples of it. It does mandates the timelines of the investigation. Again, there's no independent verification here that we can see, but it certainly gives you a timeline of activities. And the conclusion states that they have apologized for the incidents.
Yep.
And they convey regrets, and they want to improve. So there is a very much
They always say that.
Yeah,
they're not going to say, "Oh, you know what? I don't care. I'm not going to improve."
No,
It's
but
always we value your privacy and security.
Yeah, but I think the way it's written is a little bit better than some of them you see, which basically is like, well, this happened. Well, we got attacked, but actually it wasn't necessarily our fault. But sorry anyway. I think they've done a better job there of
Okay.
of stating it out. But that being said, never a good thing, is it? Given that,
not at all.
But I mean, that octopus attack, I think I think that we saw others, didn't we? So Cloudflare were involved in that, of course. MailChimp were there.
Cloudflare, obviously.
Cloudflare was the only one that was kind of came back and went, yeah, they didn't get anywhere because
we're all good. We've got hardware tokens.
Yeah, they were like, don't worry about it. You can't fish this. This doesn't work. So hats off to Cloudflare. But yeah, you're right. Okta, of course, definitely got attacked, and that was part of that bigger one we talked about previously, wasn't it? So I don't know. I don't think we've seen the last of this. Though there was, there was somebody, wasn't it? Arrested. I think the other week, wasn't it? I'm sure I read somebody was arrested in Brazil who was apparently meant to be part of that octopus group, but I haven't seen anything else since then.
Oh, I've not heard of that one.
No, I see. I'm sure I read something. Maybe I misread it, but I'm sure there was something there I saw before. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see the last of this, given
No,
especially with the targeted side of it as well.
definitely.
So moving on then from I guess breaches to a little bit more of a slightly different view of computerized attacks. Well, not even attacks. That's the wrong statement, really, isn't it?
Mm.
Computerized failings, I should say, isn't it?
I was going to say moving on from one car crash to the next might have been a better
That was better. Yeah,
segue.
you won. Yeah, you're fair. Much well played.
Oh dear, but yes. So Musk, I mean, as if he hasn't got enough press and problems to
Oh,
deal with at the
don't
moment,
please.
he's facing a probe, a criminal probe that is. The US Department of Justice have reportedly launched a criminal investigation into Tesla around its self-driving technology, autopilot, full self-driving, whatever they want to call it. Basically, Tesla has misled consumers, investors, and regulators with false advertising about its capabilities. Well, we've known this, haven't we? He's been saying that full driving, self-driving is literally months away, and he's been saying that for
Been
what,
months away since they
7
brought the
or 8
car out.
years? Yeah, 7 or 8 years. And the price keeps going up, and you buy this, and nothing's ever really delivered. But yeah, I think the investigation it's been kicked off, after a series of crashes, which I think Tesla's autopilot was involved in, and they collided with other cars or emergency vehicles, and it comes after the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They put out a report on autonomous driving, and they basically said of all the crashes with advanced driver assistance systems, Tesla made up 70% of the cars involved in accidents. And the worst one, the ones with fatalities, Tesla made up 5 out of 6 fatal crashes.
That's not good.
Now, I don't know, is this just a pure fact that there are 99% more Teslas with self-driving than there are other cars with this self-driving stuff, in which that case you'd expect to see considerably more coming from Tesla. I don't have the exact numbers to count, but it doesn't sound great.
No, I mean, given as they state there that was it, you say 70% of accidents were Teslas.
Yeah.
That's not particularly favourable odds, is it? And as you say, nearly was it 5 out of 6? So, of the fatal crashes involved in between. Well, to be clear, wasn't it? As you say, that year, almost year gap from
Yeah.
2001 to 2021 to 2022 with Tesla, and we, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw any headlines about crashes involving autonomous vehicles that weren't Tesla. Now I know
Weren't
there have
Tesla.
been, but what I mean is Tesla comes to mind,
Yeah, I think
doesn't
that's
it?
it's not necessarily a numbers game either. I think it's well, obviously as the potential lawsuit is, it's about misleading customers about what it can do.
Well, the
I mean,
capabilities, isn't
Musk,
it? Yeah.
yeah, Musk is very much touting that we'll have level 5 full self-driving, just around the corner. But really, the current system, I don't know, he will argue differently, but most people say it's probably a level 2 plus kind of stage. So it's a long way to go till level 5, which is fully self-driving. You don't have to do anything. You can sit in the back seat. It will drive you everywhere and take care of it. I think
I
we're a
mean,
very long way from there, but that's not what the marketing says, is it?
no, the
I think
marketing says
people
it's level
believe the
5.
marketing, lapse of concentration, and boom, deadly accident.
Yeah, I mean the marketing doesn't state level 5 in those words, but the
No,
way it appears is you're right, is that it's fully autonomous. I mean, I've been in a Tesla in the US that's been self-driving. They've had the person who's driving had their hands, if you will, hovering the
I'm
steering
hovering a
wheel.
steer, yeah, which is what you're meant to be doing. Yeah,
I mean, and it was not scary, but it was kind of weird, like because it was driving, you can see on the screen like the radar view, it sees the
yeah.
cars in front and it moves and the traffic. I mean, the problem is, I don't think we're ready for it. Our our point in technology and experience, we're not ready for self-driving cars. The future where every other vehicle is self-driving, I
Yeah,
think would be
it's
different
a lot
because then
easier. They can communicate with each other and stuff like that.
but
But at
we've
the
got
moment,
humans involved here. We've got, that's the problem. Humans are the issue, and there are other
they're
humans. And
unpredictable.
exactly, that's exactly what I was going to say. Unpredictability. Whereas a computer, if there are other self-driving vehicles, that probably also can communicate as well to each other. That's the view there. I mean, as you say, the level 2 piece that they suppose they've got now, I think basically cruise control on steroids is probably the way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I watched a video online from one of the YouTube people, tech correspondents, and he's quite a fan of Tesla. But even he was like, "Let me take you on a ride," and they went around for like 15, 20 minutes with Tesla on roads he knew. But yeah, the amount of mistakes and near crashes it had in full kind of autonomous mode was scary.
Yeah, I mean, you see these idiots on YouTube or in the news, don't you? That climb into the back seat of their cars,
Yeah.
and or people have rumors of being asleep whilst people have been driving. It's terrifying.
I couldn't do that. I mean, I get nervous being a passenger in the front seat just
Yeah,
because I want to be in control. I don't think I could let a computer do it.
no, no, that's yeah. I don't know. I'm just
I'm
thinking about
not
it, like
there yet. I'm not there yet.
I'm not.
Maybe in
No,
another 10
no.
years when I've seen it and it's perfected and it really is somewhere near level 5. But currently, as it stands, no. I mean, my car will self park. And I've done it a couple of times. And I'm like, you know what? No, I can't deal with the stress with that.
Oh no, I see. That I can't do that. I did drive a car once that had the self parking, and like you just said, I couldn't do it. My brain was just like, this is not right.
No. You know what?
Uh,
It's good.
you know.
I would say it does a better job at parking than I do, especially in
Oh,
tight
well, that says
spaces.
something.
Yeah, I'm not a bad parker, but in a tight space because it can see, it knows how far from the rear bumper, etc., that kind of stuff, and it's got the cameras all around. It does a better job than I do, but yeah, I still can't go. I can't. Yeah, I just can't do it.
No, it's not a safe. You know what I said? It is safe. It's not as in your head. You're like, this isn't
Yeah.
safe. This isn't safe. But
No, it is. It's good. It does it, and it does it perfect every time that I've done it. But I've only really done it to kind of show off to the kids, friends who wanted to see it happen. But yeah, day to day, no, I park the car by myself every single time.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a very good point. And I don't think I'm ready. But like I said, I go back to my point of when every vehicle is able to self-drive or autonomous, then I think you'll find it'll be a much safer environment. But it's
Yeah,
interesting, isn't it? Because a couple of the other auto manufacturers are moving away from that kind of pure autonomous vehicles, aren't they, to
yeah,
more of the driver assistance. I think Ford have said they've in their last financial report, Ford have stated, didn't they, that they have made a strategic decision to shift capital spending from L4 advanced driver assistance being developed by a company called Argo to internally
yeah.
developed L2 plus and L3 technology. Perhaps that's the statement to say where they think actually, the
There's a
technology
happy
is at the
medium here
minute.
somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But
but
Tesla though, it's just
yeah.
yeah.
Well, just to add to the final part for the investigation, though, that obviously if it's not at the stage yet, they're considering if it does go through, though, the potential is there could be criminal damages or sanctions or both as the outcome of this.
Well, I'm not surprised by that, to be honest with you. That's
Hmm.
yeah. There's nothing really more to say. People have died. Whether they've
Yep.
died because of their own lapse in judgment, because I think a couple of those accidents did happen, didn't they, through rumored loss of control and the fact the drivers weren't, in a vehicle. But there was that one fatal crash before, wasn't there? Where wasn't it a Tesla that was testing? Was that the one of the Teslas that was testing and ran
Oh.
somebody over? I can't remember if that was a
Oh, was
Tesla or
that a
not
test?
now.
No, that wasn't a Tesla,
Oh
was
no,
it?
that
That
may have been
was
another vehicle. I apologize. Yeah, sorry, another vehicle. But
was that an Uber one? Their autonomous ones? I want
I
to
do.
say Uber, but I
That was the one
could
where
be wrong.
wasn't it when where the safety driver didn't react quick enough, wasn't it? That was a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think people are going to want to make claims against Tesla if they have been missold
Yeah.
on the technology. Though I did think it was amusing though that the Register who published this story reached for Tesla for comment, didn't they? But they made a point. Tesla doesn't have a PR department anymore.
No, no. Maybe I should try Twitter.
But yeah, I mean that's where Chief Twit is these days, isn't he?
Oh God, what a title! Oh,
I
change
just
one letter.
the problem is though, yeah, the problem with Twitter, not Twitter, the problem with Tesla, Twitter, there's a theme here. Is you can't take, on one hand you've got Musk and doing SpaceX, and we watched that landing of that Falcon Heavy boosters the other day, didn't we? And
He's
that
doing an
was
absolutely fantastic job.
uh,
Obviously, of the
amazing.
tech, the rumors I've heard of working conditions at SpaceX are not great.
No, but from a point of view, if you take SpaceX and the achievements that they have, that parallel landing of two
Yeah,
boosters, which I mean, I say it every time, but it's science fiction. It's just amazing.
yeah.
to Tesla, where theoretically we've got these great cars that are challenging the established automakers, the self-driving capability, I won't say autopilot, and then you've got Musk on the other hand doing things with hyperloops and all kinds of weird stuff. Yet Twitter is basically a proverbial car crash in itself after him buying it. It's just the guy's, it's just up and down, isn't it? There's no
It
real
is.
real thread that runs through it all. It's just chaos, I think, is the only way to look at it.
Yeah, chaos. That's a good description.
Yeah, crazy. So rather than lawsuits, then we mentioned last week that Apple have decided, well, I say decided, have been led down a road by the EU that they
Yes.
will be moving away from Lightning connectors on their phones to USB-C, which is now the de facto industry standard port for charging,
Yep.
and I guess data as well, isn't it?
It
But
is.
Apple have now publicly stated that they will be doing that and they will comply with the new regulations.
Well, okay, so right,
But
this was a Wall Street Journal Tech Live conference, wasn't it? So they had
but
Greg Joswiak,
Joswiak, yeah,
who's the Apple Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing, as well as Craig Fedor. I don't remember his last name.
Federici,
Craig
isn't it? Craig
Federici, that's
Federici.
the one. Craig,
Yeah.
yeah, he's the SVP of software engineering. They had him on stage, and obviously the question came up about the new European Union regulation and USB-C. And after a lot of waffling, Greg said, "Now, obviously, we'll have to comply." So, I mean, I've got my thoughts on this. Are we going to see USB-C? That's what the press is saying, but they never actually said they're going to put USB-C ports on the iPhone. I mean, and if you look at this legislation, though, it says that obviously it says that the actual legislation says that manufacturers must equip their device with USB-C insofar as they're capable of being recharged via wired charging. What if there's no port?
Well, yeah, you kind of led me down the road that I was thinking about saying. So my view was right, no port. I think the portless piece. I mean, we've had portless.
We've had that
iPhones,
rumored before, haven't we? We've been
knocked
rumored for
around
years.
for a couple of years. Yeah, at least there. My other argument is that apart from kind of gatekeeping on what you plug into your phone through Lightning, and also the MiFi, what's their licensing?
Moneymaker.
Yeah, I don't see realistically what's causing them a problem here, because actually standardization across their product line isn't a bad idea, and they've really much, as we stated last time, they've pretty much done that anyway. But you're right. Apple haven't actually said in black and white, yes, there will be a USB-C port on the phone. They've just
said they will comply, and they can comply by removing all ports from the phone and just doing wireless.
Well, that might lead us up. Talking portless.
What was the statement they said when they removed the headphone jack? They're going to be brave, wasn't it, or something along those lines?
Well, yeah, their argument was that the headphone jack, the 3.5mm socket, was a 50-year-old technology, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, why were we still relying on a 3.5 the audio connector that was invented God knows how many years ago to do that? That's what the point was.
Yeah, converting digital audio to an analog audio to be sent by an analog connection to get to a headphone to be turned back into digital to be
actually more than 50 years. It was designed in the 1950s. So yeah, you're right. So it's not, it wasn't a new technology. Actually, their point was it's antiquated, and as you say, their statement was they were having to be brave to move away from it. Fast forward to 2022, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really cause me any issues. The only annoyances sometimes is like my kids want to use one of the iPads, like my iPad, for example, my iPad Pro, which hasn't had it, and they're like, I've got to go find the dongle, for their headphones because they've still got wired ones.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, for me personally, with the devices I use Bluetooth anyway. I've got my Sony's on. I use them.
If they remove the Lightning port and don't put a USB and no ports whatsoever, you've lost all 3.5mm audio.
Yeah, you're back down to purely Bluetooth.
Camera adapter, your HDMI out, all gone.
Which I think would cause more of a backlash for them, personally.
But I could see Apple doing it.
I could.
Just to raise the middle finger.
They could, I agree. I think that will happen, but I don't think it'll happen yet. if you think about the other argument is that could they do a European standard phone?
I mean, they could do. They do
So
a US and a European version currently, don't they? Because in the US one, you don't get the any SIM
Simport,
trays.
yeah.
No,
So and we get SIM trays, which again, I'm not fussed about that personally speaking, because I'm quite surprised because if you think about it, we've adopted eSIM in Europe far quicker than the Americans have.
but
Should we,
not every carrier here does, unfortunately.
no, I mean, I would say, I mean, I was listening to another podcast this morning. A guy who travelled on holiday to Europe from America, who used to
Yeah,
get a SIM card every time they travelled.
of
Yeah,
course. Yeah,
and they've gone to eSIM, and he was actually saying what he thought was going to be a huge problem wasn't at all. In fact, it was easier because he didn't have to take his existing SIM out. He kept and then the eSIM just
just added
was
one in,
there.
didn't he?
Yeah, and
Virtually.
so it was like this was really good. Um, the other thing I don't think they'll remove you. The reason I don't think they'll go portless yet is that wireless charging isn't quick enough.
Yeah.
Because if you take the fast charging that we can get today, the 45, isn't it 30, 45 minutes, quick charge, or whatever it is, you can't do that with a Qi charger. Well, at least not that I've seen to
No,
the same
I always
degree.
find the wireless seems to overheat the phone as well.
Yeah, I think that does generate additional thermal heat on it, thermal output. Sorry, I, yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think left field is no ports whatsoever.
Mm.
Reality is, I think we're going to get a USB port. I don't think Apple would want to now go down the road of having USB and Lightning. So my bet is it'll be USB port across the board. But I'm ready to be proved
We'll
wrong.
see. We will see.
You know, it's I can't believe we're arguing over that, but it's the point. It's you know,
So they never actually said it.
no,
They're
no,
very,
it's
very careful with the words they say.
yeah. Well, talking of the EU, then. So if we're talking of the EU themselves,
Yeah.
so if you've been following us, what the big story from the acquisition standpoint is, of course, the Microsoft Blizzard Activision deal. So
Yeah.
last week we talked about the point of that Sony were behind the reason why Call of Duty is not on Game Pass, and that
Mhm.
realistically the CMA's argument is pretty much is Sony's argument rather than their own. It appears.
Yeah.
Well, unsurprisingly, the European Union's Commission has now stepped in as to that they are planning to open what they call an in-depth phase 2 investigation into the $68
Yep.
billion plan to acquire. I'm not really surprised by this. I think this was inevitable given the fact that we were
It
pushing
was.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And
Sony have obviously got enough sway in some of these areas that people are listening, aren't they?
they did. I mean, I don't think Microsoft helped themselves here. So the commissioner said, they'll be launching the investigation after Microsoft decided against filing remedies, which are basically commitments that would satisfy the commission's worries.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it by the stated deadline, which I think was the 31st of October. So the EU will announce what they're going to do on the 8th of November. So what's that? Tuesday? Well,
It is, yes, it is,
Tuesday,
yeah.
yeah. Tuesday. But yeah, the EU's worries are basically about exactly the same as Sony's, really. It's all about Call of Duty. Literally, it's all about Call of Duty.
Nothing else. It's just
No, that's it.
that is the prized goose, isn't it? Here, that's the goose that laid the golden egg,
Yeah,
and that's what they're all arguing over. And I think that when you break it down, it's not about them buying Blizzard. It's purely about their franchise.
it is exactly.
And I think this is where I don't know if it's going to come unstuck, but I think this is where it's going to drive a wedge, isn't it? I mean, though, as we were saying in the preamble, whether we were getting the notes ready for the show, it's Microsoft shouldn't worry because the Brazilian authorities have signed off on it, haven't they? And the Saudi Arabian authorities have also signed off on it, so they're all good. I mean, I don't know what the worry is personally.
Those upstanding
fine countries,
Yes, I'm going to leave.
Talking of Brazil, we mentioned Brazil last week. Remember about the election, and it was on a knife edge between Bolsonaro and Lula, who was the previous president, not the incumbent, but previous president, he won.
I wasn't actually expecting that.
No, I wasn't. He was the one that was more for reforestation and sorting the Amazon out,
Protecting
but
it.
yeah, but ironically though, he I think he was there was some criminal charges put to him. I don't know if they was I can't remember if they've been solved, but yeah. But Bolsonaro,
Oh, really?
I don't think Bolsonaro. Just so we're going to view into politics here. I don't think Bolsonaro has actually conceded yet.
Do
So
not. Just
no,
if I don't admit it, it hasn't happened. Yeah.
is it like it's out the Trump playbook, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna leave the office, but I'm not gonna admit I've lost.
No, I won. I had the biggest margin. I won.
But I'm a good man. I've
I'm a,
let him take over.
I'm a good man. But yes, back to the EU. So yeah, they're the EU is going to put a probe into the Activision deal. So I wouldn't. There's not going to be any
Hmm.
time soon before we see everything back onto the Game Pass. But I
No,
don't think
no.
Microsoft will walk away. I think they're going to pursue this till they have no further option really.
I think so. I think so.
Cool then. So talk about Meta then.
Yeah, Meta. Well, we've got two stories here, so it's all around their financial day, isn't it? Where they announce their
Everything. Yeah.
profits, if we're going to call them that. But they are still profits, okay? But they have come down a fair whack since this time last year, haven't they? I don't have all nitty-gritty details. I have a chart, but yeah, they've just announced their quarter three profits coming in at what, $4.3 billion, isn't it? Oh, this time last year, that was 10.2. Oh, no, sorry, I lie, $9.1 billion.
9.1. Yeah.
So more than half they've lost of that. And there's a bit of a trend. If you look back at the last quarter compared to the year before, again, they're just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, but I mean, as you say, the if you were to put a sort of an average through that, it is a downhill slide. They've had
Ooh,
some
very
strong
much.
quarters. Typically for them, Q4 is their strongest quarter.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, like most businesses, But you're right; it's a downward trending at this point, and if it carries on going that way, it's going to really drop. Because it's gone from 7.4, 6.8, 4.3. Well, yeah, unless they're going to use a terrible phrase, smash it out the park. Um, it's not a good place to be, is it?
But even looking historically, Q4 is only about $1 billion better than Q3.
Yeah, you're right because they've had strong earlier quarters in the year,
Or
haven't they? So yeah, it's a
not a
very
billion. Let's say 10%, because that's a
yeah.
better reflection of it. So we might hit 5 billion for Q4 at this rate, maybe.
But Zuckerberg's still very bullish about this, though, isn't he?
Of course it is, yeah.
Because exceptionally bullish. He's been saying that they've had 50% increase on their reels, which is across Facebook and Instagram, 140 reel plays. I'm guessing that must be videos.
Yeah.
He says is that they're investing heavily in AI content discovery so they can compete with TikTok. They added 3,700 net new employees in Q2, which actually, though, again, is down from about over 5,500 in the Q2.
Okay.
So, their hiring is, I mean, in one respect, if you bring on that many people, that's a lot of money, obviously, off the baseline.
Of course.
But they're saying that hiring's going to slow down, and they're also expecting headcount to be flat next year. That's, I think, a trend that's happening across the board, though,
It
not
is,
just
yeah.
Meta, because there's rumors that Apple are hiring freeze now. Is that Apple having
Other than R&D, everything else is on freeze,
yeah,
yeah.
and many other, and especially in the security industry, we've seen a lot of layoffs across the security industry as well over the last month or so. So, I don't, I wouldn't want to go out on a limb and say that's Meta only, but I think it gives you indication of the overall state of the IT industry.
Yeah, definitely not good.
But I mean, uh, this is taking money off his value as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. I imagine most of his wealth is tied up in shares of Meta, so that's got to hurt.
I don't suspect he's cash rich at all. No. Well, let's hope then that this 3 billion loss, because he's saying that they've lost 3 billion, but the 2030s is going to be amazing. Well, let's hope that
The 2030s.
let's hope that, however, though, the new hardware they're looking to launch next year might bring some more cash in, but I'm not
Yes.
convinced.
Well, they did kind of announce that, didn't they? They said, what do they say? So you're all about Reality Labs hardware costs, which is obviously the old Oculus division, and the launch of their next generation of consumer Quest headsets later next year. So we're presuming that is Quest 3.
It's got to be, isn't it? I can't see anything else given
Gotta be.
what we've had as
No.
so far.
Yeah, so we got Project
Yeah,
Cambria, didn't we? Which is the Quest Pro. So this must be the Quest 3. You know, they didn't go into any hardware details whatsoever, but I mean, there were some leaked schematics
there
recently,
were.
weren't there? And even John Carmack said some details about the new headset at the last event. So what we kind of roughly know is, it's going to have at least 120 hertz refresh rate, which
Nice.
Carmack said at the event. They're looking at a slimmer design, and they're going to use that same pancake lenses they've got in the Quest Pro, which do look very, very nice indeed. But apparently, no eye or face tracking. I'm guessing no leg tracking either. But we're going to have depth sensors for mixed reality. So I presume it's going to be a VR AR headset. And it didn't say this in any of the leaks, but I imagine if we are going mixed reality, it's got to have upgraded color high definition cameras on the front for that pass through. It just seems to be a given if they are going for mixed reality.
I'd hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty poor product in that sense, isn't it? If it can't do that.
What is a very, very
Yeah,
blurry
but
grey
I think
reality?
Zuckerberg had been kind of quoted earlier in October saying that there will be a Quest 3, but it'll be. I love how he gave a price range of 300, 400, or 500. That zone. That's not a zone. That's three different price points.
Somewhere.
It's going to cost something.
It's not like 350 to 370 kind of
Yeah,
that,
but they've got to keep doing something. I mean, they've got to have a revenue model here with these headsets, but I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see the next one have a proper native USB port, which I can plug into a PC. Not this weird, what it does at the moment, if you've got a Quest 2, it takes the video feed as a screen capture of your game, encodes it into, I'm not sure it's a H.264 or 5, sends that in a video channel up USB-C, and then decompresses it into your headset at the other end, which obviously adds latency and quality problems.
I was just going to say that does not sound like a efficient way of doing it.
It's not a clean way of doing it, is it? No, it's not like the Rift or Rift S, which was
Display
a proper
port,
appears as a monitor.
Yeah, plug in. Yeah,
it appears, it's DisplayPort. It appears as a monitor, doesn't it? That's not how the Quest 2 works.
I hadn't realised it was that convoluted.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. So there is. I mean, it's a much better quality headset visually than what I had on the Rift, but it's not as good as it could be by doing a pure USB DisplayPort.
No. Yeah, I'm still convinced that for me the next way is not going to be Meta. It's going to be other manufacturers. I think that's my when I do get around to updating. But yeah, but still, so we are expecting.
You got to buy a new graphics card first, haven't you?
Well, yes, but what I won't be getting though is that RTX 4080 12 gig that we now know Nvidia have canned, and we know why they've canned it as well, don't they? So.
Yeah, they left it to the last hour, didn't they? So apparently, obviously, manufacturing was ongoing, and some of these cards escaped the factory.
I love that. I've got visions of them running out the door. No, you won't kill me. I'm leaving.
I am a 4080, and you can't take that from me. Yeah, but no. Apparently, somebody has managed to get hold of one of these and done some basic benchmarking. Wow, I mean, they were posting scores of what 13,400 odd in 3D Mark's Firestrike and 10,700 odd in Time Spy. And this kind of places it just barely more than a 3080 12 gig, not as high as a 3080 Ti.
That's terrible. Absolutely.
Considering these were meant to be nearly double the performance. If you looked at a 4090, it's nearly double the performance of a 3090. So this to be the same, I think that just corroborates what we were saying last week. This is really a 4060.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4070. More likely a 4060 Ti, maybe, but it's not a 4080.
No, this is either. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is a marketing fail. This isn't the hardware. This is being marketed badly. Product.
Well, the hardware's probably fine. It's just priced and marketed badly.
It's backfired on them. And not only is it backfired, because we'll talk more about next week. We're going to talk more about the AMD launch that's just happened, and we'll cover that in detail next week. But this is egg on the face of Nvidia, really, given what AMD have announced in their last 24 hours. So, it's terrible. It's a terrible play for. I mean, people will move on from it, but I think it'll always be a talking point, won't it? Do you remember the 40 series?
Yeah. If they just advertised it as a 4060 at a reasonable price, people would have clapped and gone, brilliant. We'll buy some of those.
Yeah.
I think it's greed.
Do you know what? I think you're right. Given their market position, they probably thought they could get away with it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if the AMD's review as good as they look, and it will be a slap to Nvidia.
I think it might be. Given the early performance indicators that we're seeing, and again, we're going to wait for a couple of those just to come out from some independent testing before we'll talk deeply about that. But there's certainly, as you say, from what what AMD have published as their performance increases from their own charts, and some
Yeah.
independents have started to make their own judgments, haven't they, on that as well? So, yeah, it's
Yeah, I
good.
mean, AMD's top end isn't going to beat a 4090 from a pure
But
grunt
that's not what they're looking
perspective.
for, though, is it?
No, but it's going to be more than good
Oh,
enough at considerably less
yeah, I
money.
think that's going to be the play on that. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So then, before we fire up the rumor mill,
Yeah.
Qualcomm then have done something rather odd, or at least they're threatening to do something rather odd, aren't they? Well,
Well,
sorry,
ARM
I'll
are
rephrase that statement.
threatening.
Sorry, Qualcomm are saying that ARM, are going to do something rather odd.
Yes.
So, if you've been following this story for a while, you'll know that Nvidia tried to buy ARM. They are
They did. Yep.
the chip designers, based in the UK, previously owned by Japan SoftBank, and now deemed as a national asset by the UK, and therefore you can't buy them. Uh, we had the whole IPO situation going on, didn't we? That was causing some issues.
Yeah.
Not IPO, sorry, private sale. Well, now ARM licensed their technology to other manufacturers, and this was one of the, I guess, the issues that Nvidia faced by potentially buying them was that there was rumors that
Yeah.
they would control the market, they would stifle competition and their competitors because of the licensing model. Well, Qualcomm are now saying that ARM are threatening to phase out design licenses for their CPUs and instead make and charge
Yes.
royalties for using the anything that has ARM design or compliant in it. But
That is. Now, this has all come out in the so obviously ARM and Qualcomm are in
they
a
are
legal
indeed,
battle at the
yep.
moment over Nuvia and their licenses. So yeah, basically Qualcomm are they're claiming that ARM are looking to phase out CPU design licenses for semiconductor companies like Qualcomm and instead charge device makers royalties for using ARM compliant processors. So currently ARM have two licenses. They have a technology license, which is where ARM provide like an off-the-shelf blueprint for a chip design, and the chip designer pays for that blueprint and then pays a royalty for each shipped chip. So that's what kind of thing Qualcomm does. And then there's an architectural license, which we know Apple has. And this is where basically Apple can build ARM compliant processors from scratch in any configuration they want, and they just pay a smaller royalty per shipped component per chip. But yeah, Qualcomm are claiming that ARM are going to be scrapping that approach in the next 3 years and instead directly charge device makers. So let's say Samsung, Asus, those kind of people, for using that ARM-based silicon and force chip designers to only use ARM IP. So currently, even if you take the technology license, you can take an ARM chip and you could mix and match it with an AI accelerator or a GPU from another company. Okay, but yeah, they're saying ARM are going to stop that dead in its tracks, and you can only use ARM GPUs and AI accelerators with ARM CPUs. You have to get the whole thing from ARM, and you pay ARM directly. You don't pay Qualcomm.
And then for the OEMs, they would have to pay for every device sold, wouldn't they? Royalty on those devices.
They would, yeah. Well, exactly. So they're paying it on the
Yeah.
per device rather than Qualcomm paying it per chip. And they're also Alarm will apparently no longer license CPU technology to semiconductor companies once existing agreements expire.
Oh dear.
I mean, I don't
I
know.
don't see the logic
I mean,
here.
also, what?
Because
No,
ARM
me
now are
neither.
playing.
I mean, ARM going to start building chips, are
Well,
they?
it's also to me, again, from a layman's perspective, looks like anti-competitive behaviour from ARM.
Well, it does indeed.
Because
Yeah.
given that there is a limited choice in that market space, if you don't go with ARM and license their technology, realistically, who are you going to go to?
Don't know, but I mean, Qualcomm made that claim that basically says ARM has already told at least one device maker that uses Qualcomm's processors that they will need to obtain a new direct license from ARM in the future to use ARM-powered silicon.
Jeez.
But obviously, this is all coming from Qualcomm. ARM are saying that their statements are riddled with inaccuracies, but they haven't actually denied it.
I'm surprised, given this move. This could be strong arming by ARM against Qualcomm
Yep.
to force them into different agreements. If it is, then that's poor tactics as well. But given the depth of this, and the fact that Qualcomm are willing to go on record, it seems, and state this, would imply that they feel they've got enough evidence. I don't think Qualcomm would want to damage their reputation
Exactly.
to
No.
disparage ARM like this.
So are ARM now going to build fabs, or maybe they're going to use Intel's fabs to build
Well,
chips? Because Qualcomm's
no.
not going to want to build the chips for them, are they? Or, I mean, maybe there's got to be something to it. There's no
Oh
smoke
God,
without
no, no,
fire.
no.
I mean, I think. Oh, it must have been a couple of months back we talked about Apple looking into
Yeah.
RISC-V, didn't we? As maybe that they're hearing similar things. Maybe that's why that's their backup. That if ARM goes down this route, goodbye ARM. We'll have RISC-V waiting.
And given, I mean, let's be honest, an ARM are never going to be able to force Apple into doing something they don't want to. They just do not have that clout. Apple, as you say, have a backup plan, potentially speaking, and
Yeah. And they're not afraid to jump.
No, not at all.
Technologies,
No
are
way.
they? From PowerPC to x86 to ARM. Yeah,
no way at all. And I think it would be a cold day in hell if a supplier managed to get one over on Apple like that, or a licensing.
Yeah.
So no,
and Apple aren't going to want to take off the shelf chips from
way.
ARM for their. But it's a highly customized ARM compatible chips, aren't
of course they are. And given Apple's play in the market, they'd probably be also going back to ARM and going, well, think about what we've done for you, kind of thing, and how this works. So interesting. From Qualcomm, I'll keep an eye on this one to see where this goes, and see where ARM's statement are. But it certainly doesn't, as you say, there's no smoke without fire. It doesn't smell right either, does it? That ARM are doing this. But
no,
given the whole piece with Nvidia and the push factor of what could have happened if Nvidia had bought them, it just seems ludicrous that they'd want to go down this road. But perhaps things are tough over at ARM HQ.
Who knows? But yeah, we will be back with more information as we hear it. But it's interesting.
Well then. It's back after a well-deserved break. I mean, I think we had when was the last time we had the Rumour Mill out to play? A couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? And I think we only had one Apple story there. Well, this week we're back with the iPhone 15 rumors. So as I said, the iPhone 14's hardly the paint's hardly dried on it, has it?
Yeah, it's dead to me, the 14.
So then, what am I going to get with my 15 then, Carl? Or what am I not going to get?
Wow, we've got two stories from Quo himself. So the first one's, well, they're all about the iPhone 15, obviously, but they're actually both about the Pros ones. So what they're saying is 15 Pro and Pro Max are likely to get solid-state volume and power buttons. So remember, was it the iPhone 7 or was it? I think it was the 7. They moved from a physical clicky home button, didn't they, to one that emulated
haptic engine, wasn't it? Or taptic or haptic? I never tap.
They call it a haptic engine. That's what it says on the chip. So it's a haptic engine where it registers your touch and then vibrates a motor to make it feel like you're pressing a button. I'm not sure how I feel about this on volume and power buttons. I mean, how are you going to do a hard reset if the phone's locked up?
That's a really
because there's no physical buttons anymore.
Really good point. As we were saying back earlier about phones going portless, this now phone's going buttonless, isn't it? It's a very valid point of how will you do that, and also think about the other things that you can use the volume controls, like taking pictures with a camera. That physical button of pressing down. I mean, I'm saying
I like the physical buttons. I was never much of a fan of the haptic on the home button.
I'm not sure what the logic is here. I don't know. I mean, because
it's something new.
Yeah, it's something new. I guess it's a cleaner looking design, isn't it? You're not having...
Makes it more waterproof?
Well, yeah, but I mean, really? I mean, those buttons, well, I suppose so, but then you've only got, I suppose the power button can go this way as well, couldn't it? Or would that need to be... No, that'd have to be physical, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what they said. No,
it's
said
the power button. I
misunderstood.
Sorry, I thought you were just the volume.
Yeah, the volume and the power buttons. Both. All of them.
Then
all
I've
the
got
buttons.
one more problem for you then. What about the volume, the mute button, the silence button on the side?
Oh, yeah, I haven't thought about that one.
Because that's a physical slide, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I find this one puzzling because I'm not sure what the gain is here beyond, as you say, potential waterproofness. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they do get dirty. I mean, I've had to clean them, especially in the case. Get a bit of grime around them. You do have to sometimes give them a little clean with the old what do our American friends call it,
Yeah.
Q-tip.
And
The earbuds.
actually, how do you turn it on
What?
if the power button requires power to work?
Well, is that going to be like a bit like the
I mean, if your phone's
well,
completely dead, do you have to charge it a bit
well,
for it to
that's
turn it
that's what I was just going to
on?
say. Is it going to be a bit like the Find My thing? Where it says that Find My still works if the phone's off. So there's always a little power reserve there that allows you to.
No, but maybe,
Don't know,
yeah.
just a thought, but yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm
Don't
not
know.
going to get. So I'm not going to get
Wow.
power buttons then, or volume controls, physical buttons with my iPhone 15. What am I going to get then? Am I going to
No.
get camera upgrades, or is that dead as well now?
Well, you're not. Depending on which model you buy, whether you buy the 15 Pro or the Pro Max. So apparently, the 8P rear-facing camera is not going to happen on the 15. But P here they mean it's a reference to the number of elements in the
Is this a
lenses.
pancake?
Okay, so
Is
the
this a
current
pancake start? No.
no,
Okay.
no, it's just to do with the lenses, the elements, sorry, within the lens. So currently the 14s Pros have 7 elements, and quite often they add these extra lenses, the elements, to reduce things like distortion. Okay, and fringing at the outer edges. So there was rumor they were going to go to eight of these, but apparently that's now off. But if you buy the Max, you're apparently going to get the periscope telephoto camera, which will increase the optical zoom. So I think the 14 Pros currently have a 3 times optical zoom. So this could enable up to 10 times optical zoom. So like Samsung have
Okay. Yeah,
on
I'm
their
with you.
S22 Ultra. So yeah, we go for the Pro Max anyway. So we're winning maybe. So it'll be interesting to see that periscope lens and how good the optical zoom is on
Yeah,
it.
because I have to say that the 14 lens, lens on the 14 are a marked improvement over the 12 that you and I came from. I think those with the 13 probably saw less of a jump, didn't they, than what
Yeah,
we
I
saw?
think so.
But it is a damn good camera. I can't deny that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with the 15 and whether or not this actually has a real impact on performance.
Yep.
Um, I guess it's difficult to tell at this point. We've certainly gone past the stage now where cameras on phones are just an add-on. I mean, they are just cameras with a phone attached now,
Yeah.
rather than the other way around, isn't it? It is
They
good.
are.
But
They
no,
are.
there you go. Well, iPhone 15 is. There'll be plenty more of that, I'm sure, as the year rumbles on into next,
Yep.
and certainly, definitely as we get to WWDC, in the summertime next year, the iPhone 15 will all be almost here, and we'll have probably much hardware as well. But I'm guessing the 15 might not be a major year beyond the USB-C ports.
No, I don't think so.
Right then.
Or unless we get a massive. Well, there was rumors we're getting a massive redesign,
Well,
isn't there?
yeah, that might
But
that might
so
that might
maybe those solid state buttons are part of
maybe
that.
that is maybe a whole new chassis design. Then, as you say, yeah. Well, on that
We'll see.
bombshell, not to steal that from Top Gear, that'll probably a good place for us to wrap it up for today. We'll be back next week, as always, for episode 111. As I said, we're going to talk more around the AMD launch, as well as some of the other big stories of the week. Of course, you can find us on Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant, at Weekly Tech Rant even, and all of our show notes are at techrant.online. Please, leave us a comment, give us your thoughts. Always happy to hear what our listeners have. With that, I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening, all.